So it looks like Google is set to hit the gaming industry. You guys may remember last year how Google tested their new service, Google Project Stream. And Project Stream from Google, from what I heard, was pretty good, and a lot of people liked their experience from Google Project Stream. It really seemed like a lot of people had a good experience, and on top of that, it really did feel like you were playing on dedicated hardware when it comes to Project Stream. The first game Google actually tested out on Project Stream was indeed the new Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey was absolutely a very good game, and especially if you were streaming it on Google Project Stream, a lot of people were just super satisfied with their experience. Now moving forward into 2018, it looks like, yes, indeed, Google is set to be entering the gaming space with their Google Project Stream, but alongside Google Project Stream, it looks like we have more information on what they're actually going to be doing when it comes to the gaming industry. It actually looks like that they're going to be entering the hardware space as well. Yes, you heard me correct. It looks like they're going to be entering the hardware space, and it's actually quite interesting because we haven't had a new company enter the gaming space in quite some time. I think the last company that actually hit the gaming market in terms of the gaming industry had to be Ouya, but we all know Ouya did not do well. But then if you look at Ouya did a couple of things wrong with their system. First of all, they had a very bad ecosystem. Their ecosystem wasn't that great, and on top of that, the biggest thing you have to have when it comes to a gaming console, you have to have games to back up your platform. And what did Ouya have? Ouya pretty much had nothing to back up their platform. They pretty much their whole dream with the Ouya was to pretty much have a box that pretty much only played indie games. That's great, but we don't really need a box that plays dedicated indie games because a lot of the big companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo heavily support indie platforms, especially Nintendo. Nintendo's probably the biggest platform to support indie developers. If you want indie games, you can definitely get them on the big three gaming platforms. So it was kind of a mistake for this company to come in like Ouya and then actually try to make a box that was only dedicated to indie games. But then on top of that, they even made things worse with the Ouya, because you do have to realize the Ouya was a box that actually had crappy indie games. A lot of the indie games that were on there were actually based off of Android, because the Ouya box was based off of Android in the first place. So you can see there was a number of problems wrong with the Ouya, and on top of that, it had a bad controller. The controller is half the experience when it comes to gaming. Why would you want to sit down in front of a TV and play a game when the controller is just very bad? A lot of people did not like the controller. Me, myself, have been playing an Ouya in the past, did own one, and I can safely say the controller was not all that great. Was it garbage? No, it definitely wasn't a garbage controller, but from what I used, I did not like my experience with the Ouya box, and I also did not like the controller experience with the Ouya. So moving on to 2019, what does Google actually have in store when it comes to dedicated hardware? Well, when it comes to dedicated hardware, we still really don't know anything, but we know most likely they're going to be releasing dedicated hardware. The reason it looks like they're going to be releasing a dedicated hardware, some type of a box, kind of like an Xbox, a PlayStation, or a Nintendo Switch, is because it looks like we already have rumors and we already have these renders of a controller that Google may possibly be using with their dedicated console that's coming out sometime in the near future. Take a look at these pictures on the internet of this controller that apparently looks like it's going to be used for some type of Google set-top box or Google gaming box. Now, when I look at this image for this gaming controller, the first thing that comes to mind is actually it does not look that great at all. You look at this thing, this actually kind of reminds me of an Ouya controller back when Ouya tried to hit the market. It looks like the biggest thing with this controller is the fact that the grips on the side just seem like they're just too big, and overall the controller looks like it's just too wide of a controller. Personally, for me, that's half of the experience. Like I said, when it comes to gaming, you want to have the controller as good as possible. Now, of course, keep in mind the controller for this thing is only a mock-up and it's only a prototype, so who knows if this is the final design for the Google controller that's going to be used with this new Google gaming console. This could very well be the design that they actually use when the device actually comes out, or this could not be the design they use when it comes out. But taking a look more at this controller closely, you can see the D-pad looks okay. We'll have to wait and see if the D-pad is going to be any good on this, because a lot of times D-pads are either too mushy or there's just something wrong with the D-pad. So the D-pad is a big deal. We'll have to wait and see how the D-pad turns out on that controller. The thing I'm kind of also worried about with this controller is it looks like the thumbsticks on this may not travel that far, so we may be talking about something kind of like a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con situation. We may be talking about something that just does not travel that far. They could even be close to sticks that we see something like on a PS Vita, and that's not good considering this is a console you play at home hooked up to a TV or to a monitor. And if we're going to have really small travel on these sticks, that is not great, because we're going to probably be playing really good games on this, or we could potentially be playing really good games on this. And of course, we all know controllers can definitely support a pretty long travel distance when it comes to the thumbsticks or the analog sticks on a controller. So hopefully they get that all figured out, but that's just what it looks like in the renders I'm personally seeing. And then on the back we have some triggers, and then on the front of it we have a home button, which is probably going to have some type of UI with this box. It looks like if they're going to have a home button on this, it looks like this Google streaming box that they're going to have, or this Google console that they're going to be releasing, it looks like they're going to have more than just gaming on it, because why would they have a home button on something if there's no point of going to a home screen and actually doing anything? So I suppose you can do other things with this box when it comes out on the market. And then we have, I think it looks like a back button. We also have a Google button on it, and then we also have a microphone button on it. The microphone button is going to be interesting on this. Does this mean it's going to have a dedicated microphone on it? Most likely, from this picture, it looks like this controller may have a dedicated microphone on it, so you can chat with people, or better yet, you can use Google Now. Of course, we all know what Google Now is. It's pretty much their equivalent to Siri or Alexa, so that would be pretty cool. If you're using the box, you can just bring up Google and you can search for stuff that way. I think that would be a really cool implementation of Google, and of course, Google is the leading search engine on the internet, so of course they have a lot of knowledge on that, so that would actually be a cool thing if they added it to this box. Now, of course, we don't know what type of games we're actually going to be playing on this Google dedicated hardware. Are we going to be playing AAA games? Are we going to be playing their own specific games that Google has bought out? Are we actually going to be playing indie games? Who really knows what we're going to be getting? But there's also a couple of different rumors on the internet floating around that suggest that they are going to have actually some companies backing them up on this project, so they will be bringing the heat. It won't just be Google coming over and not delivering, kind of like what Ouya did, like I already explained. It looks like what's going to be happening with this Google box that they're going to be making that's a dedicated hardware. It looks like they're actually going to have Sega back them up. Yes, you heard me right. It looks like Sega is going to be backing them up on this project, and that's got to be absolutely phenomenal if that actually happens, because Sega really hasn't been doing anything too crazy lately. They still do make games, of course, but when it comes to dedicated hardware, we all know Sega is probably never going to make another dedicated box ever again in their entire history. So it would be kind of cool to have Google and to have Sega merge and make some kind of dedicated hardware where we actually see some Sega IPs over on Google, and it would actually secure them and kind of make sure that when Google actually drops this box, they'll have something out there that'll get gamers interested, because outside of pretty much nothing, they don't really have anything to show gamers why you should pick up this box if this box comes out. But who knows what else Google may have, and who knows if this partnership is actually real with Google and Sega actually merging. But if it's true, that's going to be a big win for Google. I can definitely see Google getting Sega to partner up with them when it comes to their dedicated hardware, just because, well, it looks like they do have a lot of money in the bank, and since they have a lot of money in the bank, it would be easy for them to entice these other companies like Sega to make a partnership with them and actually release them. I can also see them making their potentially own IPs and getting other third-party developers like Ubisoft or just other third-party developers jumping on board with this platform, because like I said again, they do have a lot of money in the bank, so we could see something out of this. Or maybe when this box actually comes out, it could be another disaster like the Ouya, and maybe we'll not actually get anything from this. Maybe the games will be mediocre and things like that. Now, it looks like in terms of dedicated hardware, it looks like we might be seeing some different different SKUs as well. It looks like we might have a dedicated console, kind of like an Xbox One, a PS4, where you just plop it down in front of your TV and then you actually play the game that way. And then on another note, we might actually have another box that sits there, but all it does is stream from the cloud, because like I said, they already have Google Project Stream, so that box may only be a streaming box, and that's how you actually stream the Google Project Stream. Say for instance you don't want to use your PC, you don't want to use your cell phone or whatever Project Stream is going to be on, you can buy this dedicated hardware, and then you can actually stream games that way. Also, on another note, I didn't even mention, if this box actually comes out, what type of games are we talking about, and what type of media are we talking about? Are we talking about physical media when it comes to the games? Are we actually talking about digital when it comes to the gaming industry? We know a lot of people nowadays are moving closer to that digital feature, so it's going to be really interesting if this box comes out. Are we going to have some type of physical representation on store shelves when it comes to this box, or are games going to be physical? I mean, that would actually be quite interesting if Google came out and actually made a whole bunch of physical media for this thing and that you can actually buy on store shelves. I still think personally we're still in that weird stage where a lot of people are still moving towards digital distribution, but then again a lot of people are still buying things physical, so I can see this thing coming out and actually having some physical representation, but then again I can see this not having physical representation because, well, it might cost too much and maybe they just don't want to do it. Maybe they want to cut costs, and that would be an easy way to cut costs, and of course people would just get used to downloading everything digital on this platform. You look at things like the new Xbox, which is apparently coming in May, and they're completely chopping the disk drive, so it would be entirely possible that they just plop this box down that plays games on this dedicated hardware, but you have to download everything from like a Google Play Store or a Google Game Store or something like that on this box. So overall, this thing's going to be quite interesting if it hits the market, and apparently we're going to find news fairly soon about this whole project, about more information on Google Project Stream and about their dedicated console that they're supposedly bringing to the market. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.